I was a big baby. I was like 11 and a half pounds.
No, tú eras más grande en la puta.
That's her claim to fame.
Oh, y muy importante, dile, porque tú naciste el día de la inauguración del Hospital Brooklyn.
I was born in the inauguration of the Brooklyn Hospital. So this other claim to fame. Luar is actually the name came about. It was two things. First, it was my AOL name when it was dial-up. It was like Luar Zappo, which is my full name backwards. And it was just kind of this like alter ego that I created for the internet. I was like, oh yeah, I'm a model. You know, it was like, you know, no one knows who you really are in this world. But when I started my brand, I used it as a weapon. It sucks to say, but like, you know, that's how it was. It was just to like lie to people and make them believe that it wasn't a Latino boy doing it, you know? And it was like, oh, it sounds a little French, you know? Luar, like, you know, and when I walk in, it was actually me, you know? And then it was like, oh, surprise. Growing up in Williamsburg was just home. And it was a different era, so people thought differently, acted differently. When I was younger, I hated it, but now I'm happy that I went through it and I just used it as ammunition. It was definitely crazy. It was actually cobblestones. I don't know how old, with a fucking baby bottle in my hand still. It's my mom and me in the park. I was always next to my mom. She is still one of my biggest inspirations. I would literally have to wear a tie every day to school. They call me Chalinita, which means like little tie. If you wouldn't put a tie on me, I would say I'm not going to school. I always wanted to dress up, always wanted to show out. I was obsessed with like the Hasidic women around my way and the Hasidic men. I have like probably like 20 of their jackets. I used to wear like the opaque stockings with like a kitten heel, a pleated skirt, a polo cardigan, a fitted cap, and like pearls or something like kind of to like emulate the women that were walking around my neighborhood with the strollers or probably power walking. It kind of went in and out. It was a lot. As a kid, I was always trying to stand out. My mom always said like, oh, I always knew. You know, there's like pictures of me. It was like pearls, diaper, and I think like Air Force Ones, which is kind of still true to me. I mean, I haven't really changed. Oh, hell no. The miseducation of Luar. I think my education in fashion was the streets and kind of nourishing myself with what I was seeing around me and what people were wearing. I mean, all the way to like videos before it was like heavy on like MTV and music videos. I wanted it so bad that my form of anarchy was sneaking into FIT. I would like stand outside. I would just be like, oh, I forgot my ID. Can you scan me in? You know, and I looked kind of like the part because I was like, obviously the way I used to dress. So it was like, yeah, sure. And I would just go upstairs and just scan. I would scan everything. It was also kind of a middle finger to my parents. When I was younger, I used to blame them, but if you think about it, it's not really their fault. It's just like, they came here, they wanted me to be the doctor, the lawyer. I always knew that wasn't me. I mean, I hated it. Having the sewing machines in my house and watching my mom would like, literally like, this is how you do the needle. You have to hold it like this. It's all about your knee and your foot. And like, you know, I think she kind of then was like, okay, you wanna learn, I'll teach you. And then I started making clothing in school and then people were like liking it. And I was like, okay, it was like a lot of duct tape. It was so much duct tape. Home Depot was sponsoring me in that era. It was like anything that had to do with duct tape, rubber, liquid. I was dipping stuff in everything that you can find. I wasn't allowed to really see fashion TV because it was gay. So I would like, at night I would sneak and watch fashion TV. And my first show that I like saw that I was like, what the fuck? Was the La Croix show. And I was like, I want to do that. It was just like the theatrics, the shows, like from hair, makeup, clothing. It was just all a full fantasy. And obviously I was living a fantasy in my head. So I don't know, yeah, I think that was like when I really, really fell in love with fashion was that moment. Cause I loved clothing and I loved making it, but I wasn't really like that girl cause I wasn't able to go to fashion schools. South Williamsburg was a dump, but for me it was just home. And it was, I guess, beautiful to me, and it was just kind of iconic. There was so many different cultures living there in that time before gentrification. I mean, you had Puerto Rican, Black, Italians, Polish, Hasidic. I wouldn't have ever got to appreciate everything I live for now in like Black culture or like even Puerto Rican culture. You had the prostitutes on Kent Avenue. We were not allowed to go down there, but I was like, they look fab. It was like literal like fringe leather jacket, thigh-high boot, high nani bikini, pocketbook down to the knee. I'm just thinking about it right now. It's just like, wow. It was just like, it's such a vision. Obviously to them, they were like, they look like trash. I was like, oh, she looks so good. I was like a little kid. I was like, she looks so fab. I want to be her so bad. I think my introduction to fashion was my family, my mom, my grandmother, and kind of amazing to see them kind of take these like flat pieces of fabric and then create these like garments that we could actually wear. It was just kind of seeing them making clothing for us when they would come home after they've worked so long and so hard in these factories to kind of give us the life that, you know, they were trying to give us as people coming to America looking for a better future. All that and everything I seen growing up has so much to do with the Luar DNA, and obviously everything has kind of changed. But I actually still live in my neighborhood. I still live in the building I was born and raised in. I mean, you have all the gentrification around, but you still have these buildings that still have people that are living there that I grew up with. And they all kind of really inspire me too. My mom is here, whoa. Look at her.
Oh, hello.
Hi.
That's my grandmother, that's my mom. That's Anna and Anna. You got the two Annas in one place. She's just prays all day. This is her favorite channel. This is one of her sanctuaries. And the day of my show, I come here, which is so crazy, but it's really like a thing. It's like a full altar. So that's my candle. I lit it the other day. And this is like her room. It's very simple. Usually she has like a Bible right next to her. It's literally a mass. It's called Radio Maria. It's like literally playing all day. She was the recruiter for all the women who will come from Dominican Republic. It was like, go to Anna, she got you. And because of that factory, she got her residency because they loved her so much that they like looked out for her because she was getting them so many, like, literally everybody was landing here and it was like straight to work.
Siempre estaba feminado,
And I was always very feminine.
vistiendo a la muchacha,
I used to dress all the girls.
peinándola,
I was always brushing their hair.
cosas así.
Look at
Y
that.
siempre estaba pegado en mí.
And I was always stuck on her.
Siempre, sí.
¿Es
verdad?
Yeah, she, you know, like I said in the car, I was always stuck on her. It was always like this.
Pero yo sabía
¿Y qué es lo que me gustaba? La moda.
la moda
Eso, toda la vida.
toda la vida.
Y la pintura también.
Y la
That I used to love painting
la
and
moda.
only fashion.
Ok, igual que tu madre. que
Just
le
like,
gustaba
just like her, that she used to love fashion.
a ti había que ponerte Ana.
She said they should have named me Anna. My grandmother used to be like, what? Like this? Even a tear in jeans? ¿Qué? Un jean así, mamá. ¿Qué usted dice? Un jean así. ¿Eso es qué?
No me gusta eso.
She doesn't like it. She's like, that's for poor people. She's like, I don't get these trends. She doesn't even like to see it.
Cuando tú fuiste para para República Dominicana, empecé a hacer ropa allá, ¿verdad?
Mm-hmm.
Que la gente pensaba, no sabía lo que tú estabas haciendo allá y creían que era que tú te habían deportado y aquí como un dominicano. Y tú le decías que sí, ¿te recuerdas?
I was actually born here, but it's so funny because they didn't know me there, so it's kind of funny. Look at her. Waiting for that TV to go back on so she could pray. I think me crossing the bridge was just a way to like find my tribes. All the parties now are in Brooklyn. But before I was going to Christopher Street. It was our safe haven. I would just get dressed on the train to like get off on Christopher Street to go hang out. And I found Christopher Street actually was because I was in a friend's house. All the dudes and all the girls used to hang out at his place. And he was on his computer. I remember hearing him like, oh, I'm in a chat room. And I was like, what the fuck is a chat room? It was like Thug M4M. I was like, what the fuck does M4M mean? I remember getting on and I put in M4M and I was like, oh shit, this is all dudes. Girl, that opened a can of worms. It was like, and then like people were just chatting. They're like, oh, I'm going to Christopher Street. Christopher Street, where the hell is this? Somebody was like, I'll meet you on West 4. I'm gonna take the F. And I was like, period. Ding. I remember going there, I was like, this is not real. This does not exist in the world. It was like all queer. Like every fucking body. I was like, holy fuck, this is crazy. I thought I was the only one. Baby, it was all downhill from there. I was there every Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday to school, and then I would just wait and then start again on the week. It was just crazy, and that's how I met a lot of my friends who like kind of molded me into like who I am today. I was just like a hothead because I was fighting on my blog. I remember someone trying to say something to me. I was like, excuse, like I wanted to pop off. And then this one friend who's Federico, he was like, ooh girl, you ghetto. And she was like, you need to chill. She was like, we don't do all that. I was like, yo, get out of my face. He was like, you need to take a walk. Come with us. And literally, from that day on, literally became my family. And those were like my girlfriends. They taught me everything. Everything that I knew in that whole entire era came from those girls. The clothing is just a portion of it. This little part of what I really want to do in the world. I could go to LA, Mexico, South America, Dominican Republic, and I have like my communities that love me. I mean, like we know each other. We've met through like friends and we've become family. They know that what I'm doing in my work is just really trying to create something that is more than what it really is. I just really want to create a legacy where it's like this house where making clothing to make people feel empowered. You know, that when they walk into these spaces where they're not allowed, they're being looked at like, wow, you look good. Even when you wear a Luar bag and you're a Luar girl, like you'll be like, oh, I see you, you know? And it's like, when you wear a Luar bag, it's not just because you're wearing a Luar bag, it's, you know, it's a membership to like belong to this like family. And you see each other and you're like, I see you. You know, Luar girls get it. I think Luar is just kind of like a stepping stone to access I want to give to communities and people who are marginalized around the world to kind of know that they can come here and like exist. Obviously, some of us have it harder than others, and I just want you to know that this is for you and you can exist here and no one's gonna judge you or ever come for you. We're definitely gonna uplift you and make you feel cute, period.